Humph! Watson had not even managed to get out of the store when he suddenly heard a snort. And it was only then that he finally remembered that within this store, the danger was not just Jack alone. But it was too late for him to realize that. Celine utilized her telekinesis ability to strike once again. And, this time, she controlled the splinters that had already fallen onto the ground to attack. The previous time, she had failed to kill Watson because of Smith's intervention. But this time, Smith himself was completely helpless in this situation. All that they could do was to watch as the splinters approached them at a great speed. Even though Watson wanted to get out of the trajectory of the splinters, he did not have the ability of doing so. After all, not to mention the fact that currently, he was injured and he was not in his peak condition, everything had happened abruptly. Additionally, he was currently holding Smith, something that prevented him from acting freely. But even so, after realizing that he did not have a chance of resisting with him carrying Smith, he immediately threw Smith away. It was true that Smith was the one that had saved his life, but what was the use of that if he was going to save Smith, while it was something that was going to lead to the loss of his life together with Smith's? So, he decided that by throwing away Smith, then, there might actually be a chance for him to be able to survive. Too bad, he had overestimated himself. So, although Smith managed to dodge the fatal attack because Watson had pushed him away, still, he was pierced through by the splinter. As for Watson himself, he was not that lucky. The splinter managed to pierce through his chest from behind, and it went directly into his heart. And before he could even react, Celine utilized the telekinesis and pulled the splinter out of the heart, immediately taking away the chance of survival for Watson. Bang! Bang! The two people collapsed onto the ground one after the other. Watson immediately died after a few seconds because of the hole in his heart. As for Smith, he lost his consciousness due to the pain and the loss of blood. Celine did not hesitate to finish him off while he was unconscious. She was not afraid of that Jack was going to complain that she had killed them, considering that, during the previous time when she was trying to kill Watson, Jack did not prevent her from doing so. After killing Watson by using a splinter that was directly lodged into his heart, Celine finally stopped. But, she felt her body trembling a little because this was the first time that she was killing someone. But thinking about the reason why she was doing that, she was able to stabilize her mind. To her, it did not matter who it was that she was killing. They were the ones that came over to disturb them, and it seemed that they had the intention of taking Jack away by force. To her, since she was currently possessing an ability, then, there was no way that she was going to allow someone to just cause trouble for Jack. Ivy, Samantha, and Denali watched everything from the side. Still, both of them were slightly startled by Celine's decisiveness. Both Samantha and Denali knew that Celine had never killed anybody before, so, they had been expecting that she was going to hesitate a little. But, when she was attacking, she did not hesitate at all. Moreover, she only reacted after killing them, but it was just for a split second. As for Ivy, she felt her body trembling a little when she remembered the fact that, it was not long ago that she was actually arguing with Celine. She had not expected that Celine was just as decisive as she herself was. Additionally, Celine was so strong that she herself couldn't match with her. What should we do with the bodies? Denali asked as she looked at the two bodies that were lying at the entrance of the store. This was definitely going to chase away the customers if they came over and saw dead bodies at the entrance of the store. Just wait a little bit for Jack to come over. He is going to decide on what we are going to do next. Celine responded after taking a deep breath. Although it was true that she was able to stabilize her mind, but she was a little shaken after killing the two people. It seemed that it was going to take some time for her to be able to get used to doing something like this. But she had already been warned previously before she came into the stronghold domain. Jack had already told her that inside the stronghold domain, she had to be ready to kill people. Not long after, Jack finally came back. But he came back alone. Celine could not help but question, did he escape? How is that possible? I have already killed him. As for his body, I have left it out there. He was so broke that he did not have anything important on him, Jack responded. Just like Smith and Watson, the old man was not wearing an armor that belonged to a superhuman. But that was just something that Vincent did. Using his abilities, it required him not to be putting on anything related to the armor. So, Jack was not able to take away his armor, but he only took away the communication device that he possessed. This communication device was definitely going to be tracked, but Jack did not care. He was going to handle it later on to make sure that he got information that he wanted from this communication device. First of all, he wanted to know who it was that was targeting him, After all, from the looks of it, the old man came over specifically for Celine, considering that he did not attack Jack the moment that he came, but he was eyeing Celine all that time at the beginning of the day. On the other hand, he already knew that it was the Force organization that was targeting him. Although they were a big powerhouse within the stronghold, the domain, Jack was not afraid of them. He was going to reach their level and surpass them not long using the system. Oh, Celine responded. Then, she saw that Jack completely ignored the two bodies at the entrance of the store. She could not help but question, should we get rid of the bodies or do you have any use for them? Jack could not help but look at Celine speechlessly. Did she think that he was working in a morgue or something? What use can I have with dead bodies? It is not as if I am a researcher that is going to do some research on them. Jack couldn't help but ask helplessly. Celine realized that her question was kind of dumb, but she could not be blamed because her mind was currently not stable due to killing someone. Of course, Jack had already seen that. But he did not go ahead to comfort her. Rather, it was better if she handled the situation first, and tried to get used to it. After all, there was no guarantee that this was going to be the only time that she was going to kill someone. But if Jack realized that Celine was somehow traumatized, he was going to take action. He was not going to allow her to be having nightmares because of something like this. Denali and Samantha went ahead to remove the bodies, but they were not sure where they were supposed to be keeping the two bodies. The one that was supposed to know about something like this was Samantha, but she had never dealt with something like this. So, she was just as clueless as Denali and the rest of the group were. When Jack realized that, he said, just take the two bodies and dump them inside the car that they came in. I'm pretty sure that someone will come over to look for them. After hearing Jack's words, Denali and Samantha dragged a body each and went ahead and threw them inside the car that they had come in. After that, Denali got into the car before driving it away from the store. After reaching some distance away, she stopped the car and packed it on the roadside. After that, she got into the car that Samantha had followed her in, before they went back to the store. After reaching there, they began the cleaning to get rid of the blood, before rearranging the store that was currently in a mess. Then, Samantha went ahead and purchased a new counter as the original one had already been destroyed by Smith. While all of this was happening, Jack was going through the communication device. Although it was a little complicated for him to deal with it considering that it came from a big stronghold, thanks to the 100 times effect, he was able to learn fast. Although he was not capable of accessing a lot of information within the communication device due to the security settings, but that was something that he was going to be capable of handling due to his computer mastery. Still, he decided to set that matter aside. Currently, he had to find where Derek was. He wanted to get rid of everybody that was causing him trouble within this stronghold. And after that, he was going to stop hiding. I currently don't know where Derek is hiding, but we can decide to take care of the Force organization that is present within this stronghold. After that, we can look for Derek's whereabouts. Jack stated as he put away the communication device that he had taken from Vincent. Panther's organization. Sylvia was busy with her training when she was suddenly interrupted. Although she was not a training maniac like Phoebe, but still, she was a person that liked to have her strength improving on a daily basis, something that was impossible without enough resources. So, she always put in a lot of effort during the time that she was training, and usually, she would not be interrupted by anyone during this time, something that all of her subordinates knew about. So, it was something new that she was being interrupted today, just when she was in a good mood for training. All of this is because of him. He is the one that destroyed the image that I had built all these years. And now, it seems that some people have already begun not taking me seriously, Sylvia thought to herself. Before Jack came over, at that time, she was a person that held a lot of prestige within the organization. Additionally, everybody knew that she was a cruel and cold person. But, during the incident where she was throwing a tantrum, she had lost the image that she had built for a long time. And so, the way that her subordinates were viewing her had already changed. Although nobody dared to say anything to her directly, but still, they usually did so behind her back. Even just looking at their eyes as they looked at her, she could immediately tell what they were thinking. This was something that had frustrated her the most, something that had made her to start training even more seriously. Although the resources that the Panthers organization possessed was not that much, considering the level that she was in, but she had no choice. It was true that the resources that were currently within the Panthers organization were not capable of enabling her to be able to reach the third stage of the superhuman level by breaking the third genetic lock, but it was not as if she was going to give up on something like training. With irritation on her face, Sylvia put down the weights that she was carrying, before heading towards the entrance. Unlike Phoebe, who had her second-in-command gaining entry into her training room, Sylvia was the only one that could access this room. So, she had no choice but to head to the door and open it. And she believed that it was not just anybody that was coming to look for her. That was normal, considering that normally, only the previous second-in-command, Antonio Phillips, was the one that came over, or the people from Hidden Guard would come to look for her. The moment that she touched the door, the hand was scanned before the door slid to the side and opened. The one that was revealed was a man wearing a black mask that was covering half of his face. Sylvia could not help but frown a little, considering that she didn't remember giving anybody a mission that required her to be informed of anything. As for the one that she had assigned to keep an eye on Jack, she did not believe that there was any activity that Jack was going to do within the stronghold that was going to capture her attention. "What is it?" Sylvia asked, a little impatient. The man who had appeared felt his body trembling a little when he realized that Sylvia was not in a good mood. But still, he went ahead and informed her of the reason why he had come to disturb her. "That old man that had come over with that young man has been killed. And he was killed within the stronghold. Currently, his body has already been brought back into the organization," the man stated hurriedly. Sylvia was stunned. She looked at the guy, not believing what she had just heard. "Are you sure about what you're saying?" she could not help but ask to verify. "Yes. That old man that came over with that injured young man has been brought back into the organization. But he is not alive, but just a corpse." The man nodded his head as he responded. Sylvia did not believe what she was being told, although the guy had said twice. After all, although she had not been meeting with that old man, but she already knew that the old man was a superhuman. So, how was it possible that a superhuman had died? Additionally, he had actually died within the stronghold. No matter how much she thought about it, she did not believe that there was actually a person that was capable of killing that old man within this stronghold. After thinking for a moment, she looked at the man in front of her and asked, "Could it be that the people from the Force organization are the one that have killed him?" It might be true that the people from the Force organization had tried to make sure that whatever activity that they were doing was kept as a secret, but there was no way that they were going to be capable of preventing everything from leaking. Even though Sylvia was not sure about the reason why they had come over, but she knew that there were actually some superhumans that had come within the stronghold. The increase in the number of the superhumans that were continuously visiting this stronghold was yet another reason why she was motivated to train, to try and level up and reach the third stage of the superhuman level. "Not really. The one that was in charge of killing him is actually Jack," the man responded. Although he was not the one that was in charge of keeping an eye on Jack, but he had already received information from the person that was keeping an eye on Jack and his group. So, during the time that Jack was going after Vincent, that guy had also followed behind, and he had witnessed as Jack killed the old man one-sidedly. "Are you serious? You are trying to tell me that Jack is the one that killed that old man?" Sylvia asked incredulously. This was something that was way out of her expectation. She believed that for an old man like Vincent who came from a big stronghold, he was definitely not weak. Additionally, for him to be killed, there will definitely be a big commotion that would be created during the fight. But so far, she had not noticed any big commotion being created within the stronghold. "According to the information that I have received, that old man was killed without having a chance of retaliating at all," the guy with the black mask on his face replied. Sylvia frowned. She began thinking about Jack, and no matter how she thought about it, the pressure that she had felt from Jack was definitely not something that was capable of defeating that older man one-sidedly. Although she was not capable of knowing the stage that the old man was in, but she was sure that she herself was definitely not capable of dealing with that old man. But, according to the information, Jack had actually killed that old man one-sidedly. And all of this happened after Derek had been injured. "Let us go and meet that Jack. I have to confirm something," Sylvia stated after a moment of hesitation. In reality, she really didn't want to meet with Jack. She believed that the moment that she saw his face, she was definitely going to be incapable of preventing herself from bashing it. So, she had been trying to make sure that she did not see Jack at all. But now, it was completely different. She was both curious about how Jack was able to kill that old man, and if he was actually of helping her out. But of course, she had to try and make sure that he did not take anything from her. After saying that, Sylvia did not even bother to change out of her training outfit. She walked out of the room and headed towards the direction that was pointed by the guy wearing a black mask, where the body of the old man was placed. Of course, since the man was part of the Hidden Guard, he did not show himself in front of the organization. So, the one that appeared outside of the place where they were keeping them dead body was Sylvia alone. After the members of the Panthers organization saw her, they immediately made way for her. But nobody dared to speak. They only stood on the side, waiting for her to finish inspecting the body. Sylvia did not even bother to touch the body. Instead, she just looked at it, and realized that the old man had been killed by having his neck broken. That was visible due to the angle that they make was currently twisted in. After making sure that this was the old man that had come over with Derek, she turned around and left. After getting out of the Panthers organization, she got into her car, something that she usually drove in case she wanted to have her own free time and relieve her mind of the stress that she was having. After she got into the car, she began driving towards the direction that the store that was owned by Jack was located in. On the other side, after Samantha had already made arrangements for the repair of the store, the group finally decided to head towards the location of the Force organization. By coincidence or not, just after Jack and his group left, Sylvia arrived. But, after she entered the store, she realized that Jack and his group had already left. Where have they gone to? Sylvia questioned. Not long after she had asked that question, she used the communication device that she possessed to contact the person that was in charge of keeping an eye on Jack and his group. I'm not sure why, but I think that they are heading towards the Force organization. They have already killed 2 of their superhumans. A male voice responded respectfully. Sylvia could not help but be a little dumbfounded. She was obviously not dumbfounded by the information that Jack and his group were heading towards the Force organization. But instead, she was dumbfounded by the fact that other 2 superhumans had also been killed. At this moment, she could not help but question herself, are superhumans that easy to kill? Why didn't I know? According to the information that she possessed, during a fight, it was the superhumans that made the major impact. But still, it was only during the time that they were on the battlefield that several superhumans could be killed. But right now, inside this small stronghold number 17, there were actually 3 superhumans that had been killed. Additionally, all of them came from big strongholds. And, to make the matter even worse, the one that had killed them was actually Jack and his group. Could it be that I underestimated them? But, this should be impossible for a person of their age. Sylvia thought to herself. But, that thought appeared in her mind momentarily before it disappeared. It was just that, she had suddenly thought of Jack's mother, Anne. Whatever. It is not as if I am the one that is going to be punished by the people from the big strongholds. Anyway, let me go and look for him and see what it is that he is intending on doing. Sylvia shrugged her shoulders before she dismissed whatever thoughts she was having in her mind. Immediately after that, she got back into her car and began driving towards the Force organization hurriedly. She had to get there as soon as possible, to ensure that she did not miss much. Before they left, Jack had instructed Ivy to leave. Anyway, it was not as if there was anything that they had to deal with her. More than that, she herself was only a 2-star ordinary human, and she was not that useful in what they were going to do. Although Ivy was a little reluctant, she had no choice but to go back. Anyway, she had experienced a lot on this day, and her brother was definitely waiting for her back at the place that they were staying inside the stronghold. So, she had decided that she was going to come back after Jack and his group came back. This time, she had already decided that she had to make sure that she followed this group. Only by following this group, she believed that she was going to get stronger than she had ever imagined before. After about 30 minutes, Jack and his group finally arrived at the area where they had registered as members of the stronghold domain. After arriving there, Jack and his group did not make any commotion. Instead, they went according to the procedures, and asked to meet the leader of the organization of this branch that was located within stronghold number 17. Of course, the moment Jack and his group requested for something like this, they were not given the permission. At the end of the day, not just anybody could meet up with the leader of the organization. That was something that always happened, even the big companies. Unless there was a good reason behind that, then, a person could be allowed to meet with the leader. And, the person that was receiving them this time was a middle-aged man. He could not understand the reason why this group of young people had come over to request a meeting with the leader of the organization. According to his point of view, the only person that was older here was Samantha, someone that was currently at the age of 29. As for the rest of the group, they did not even look like they were at the age of 25 yet. So, he did not believe that they were that much strong. I'm sorry, you don't have a valid reason for meeting up with the leader, the middle-aged man stated. Currently, there was a somber atmosphere within the entire Force organization. Although the majority of the people within the organization did not know what had happened, but still, they knew that something bad had happened. And that was the reason why the leaders of the organization were both furious and afraid as well. So, in this situation, there was nobody that was going to be able to meet with the leader of the organization, unless there was actually a very good and a valid reason for doing so. Okay. I guess we will welcome ourselves in then, Jack stated before he began walking towards the elevator. It was not as if he had come over with some good intentions. His real intention was to deal with the entire force organization that was located within this stronghold. Other than that, he wanted to get the resources of the entire force organization, something that he was going to boost to start his business. Additionally, he was looking forward to the system. He was not sure if whatever he was going to get from the force organization was going to be multiplied by 100 times or not. But he really hoped that it was going to be so. When the middle-aged man realized that Jack and his group did not intend on listening to him, he was both infuriated and anxious. After all, currently, with the situation that the force organization was in, anybody that was going to cause trouble was definitely going to be in deep hot soup. You better stop there right now. If you dare to do anything that is against the rule of the organization, then, don't blame us for being rude, the middle-aged man shouted. And as he said those words, the guards that were close to the entrance made at the move. They immediately blocked the path of Jack and his group. They were waiting for Jack and his group to make any more move, and if they did that, then, they would definitely not hesitate to deal with them. Although they could not kill them, but that did not imply that they could not beat them up. So, they looked at Jack and his group with hungry gazes. It was not that easy to find a person that they were going to beat up inside the stronghold. So, for some time now, they felt that their muscles were itching to do something. Instead of stopping, Jack and his group continued. As for the group of people in front of them, they were suddenly repelled by an invisible force. They did not even realize what had happened before they passed out due to the impact of their bodies against the wall. The middle-aged man was about to tell them that they were supposed to leave before they were dealt with, when he was left with his mouth hung open after realizing that the people that were supposed to be dealing with Jack and his group had been taken care of. What dumbfounded him the most was the fact that they had actually been dealt with without even getting touched. It was as if they had been beaten by someone invisible. The man felt his throat going dry, and, whatever words he was about to say, he immediately swallowed them back. Then, he watched with fear as Jack and his group entered at the elevator. A few seconds after the elevator was closed, the man took a deep breath before he rushed to contact his superiors. Currently, he was not sure about the aim that Jack and his group had for coming to the organization. So, he had to give an alarm. But of course, it was not as if it was needed because all the action that was taking place on the ground floor was already seen by the people that were monitoring the surveillance system. So, they had already informed the high-level members of the organization. It might be true that the force organization did not possess that large number of people, but still, it was not as if they could be underestimated. So, the moment that Jack and his group exited the elevator, they found that they were being waited for by a large group of people. There was a menacing expression on each and every face that was looking at them. Of course, all of them were angry at the fact that Jack and his group had the audacity of barging into their organization. If news went out, then, they were going to lose face. The moment that the elevator opened, this group of people did not even hesitate to attack. Of course, they began using the laser weapons that they possessed. It was just that, the level of the laser weapons that they had was not the most lethal one considering that currently, they were inside a building. It was also during this moment that Celine finally decided to test out the full capabilities of her telekinesis ability. So, as the lasers charged towards them, she took a step forward and activated the ability. Of course, she did not target the lasers that were heading their way. There was no way that she was capable of dealing with light, considering that the lasers that were shot towards them were an amplification of light stimulated by radiation. The moment that she activated the ability, the doors of the elevator that had not retreated fully suddenly stopped. Then in the next moment, they began making a loud noise. Bang! The doors stopped with a loud sound. In the next second, they suddenly began bending as they came back to close the entrance of the elevator. All of this happened so fast. It was something that Celine was doing faster because she knew that they were going to be in some trouble if the lasers managed to reach them. It was just that, she had miscalculated the speed of the lasers, so, although she was fast, she was not fast enough to close the doors before the lasers arrived. Jack had already realized that something like this was going to happen, so, he had already began acting from the start. Just as Celine realized the error that she had made, she suddenly felt someone grabbing her waist. Before she was pulled backwards, She felt herself being enveloped in something warm. By the time that she came back to her senses, she realized that it was Jack who had actually taken her into his embrace. And, currently, he had already shifted the two of them in such a way that he had his back facing the entrance of the elevator. Celine wanted to do something, but there was nothing that she could do as the lasers had already arrived. Jack had already realized that there was nothing that Celine could do in such moment. So, he decided to protect her using his own body. He was not in the least afraid of being grievously injured by the lasers. He felt his back being hit by something before a burning sensation hit him. But, that was not something that he cared about, considering that the damage that was dealt to his back was nothing much to a person of his caliber. Samantha and Denali had both moved to the sides in the elevator from the moment that they realized that there was an attack on them. Unlike Jack, whose body was stronger due to breaking of the genetic locks, they were still ordinary humans and they were not wearing any armors. After shooting for a few more seconds, those who were firing finally realized that something was amiss. According to their knowledge, the person they had been shooting all this time was supposed to be dead by now. Surprisingly, he was still standing there. Upon careful observation, they couldn't help but widen their eyes in disbelief and surprise. The person they had been shooting at was not dead, which was unexpected. However, what terrified them was the fact that, even after they had shot several times, the damage they had inflicted could be completely ignored. On Jack's back, where they had been shooting, the shirt had already been destroyed. This revealed the skin beneath, which showed no severe injuries as expected, but just a few red marks, something like a burn mark from being in the sun for a long time. While they were flabbergasted, Jack and Celine were in a world of their own. Initially, Celine was worried about Jack's safety. She wanted to push him to get out of harm's way, but Jack didn't move a single step. The worry in Celine's heart intensified at this moment. However, that worry disappeared the moment she looked into his eyes. There was no fear, and there was no sign that he was experiencing pain. What she could see was comfort as he looked at her. This immediately left Celine momentarily speechless. After a while, she noticed that he was smiling at her. She couldn't help but ask curiously, "Why are you smiling?" "It's comfortable," Jack responded. What? Celine was confused. What could he find comfortable when they were under attack? "It feels comfortable to hold you like this," Jack stated, with the smile on his face not fading at all. Celine was dumbfounded after hearing what Jack had said. This guy was actually thinking of something like this when they were being attacked. Was there something wrong with his mind? With a slight blush on her face, she looked at Jack and said, "This is not the time to be thinking about something like this." Although she was trying to act angry, the cute expression on her face made Jack pinch her cheeks as he asked, "What is the right time then?" "When we are alone." Celine subconsciously responded. She was getting a little nervous at this moment. Not only due to the fact that they were here to attack an organization, but also due to Jack's behavior in front of so many people. She had only said those words when she realized something. She was just about to change what she had said when Jack beat her to it. "It's decided then. After we are done with the matter here, we will get some time alone, right?" Jack stated as he finally released Celine out of his embrace. Then, he turned around before he rushed out of the elevator. The group that had been attacking was staring dumbly at Jack as he stood there, his back facing them. Then, just as the group was wondering on what they were supposed to do, they heard the conversation between Jack and Celine. They were left with their mouths gaping. This guy, they had attacked him. But instead of paying attention to them, he actually had the nerve to start flirting at a moment like this? Just as they were not sure on how to react on getting ignored, Jack suddenly rushed out of the elevator. The speed at which he was moving it was not something that they could follow at all. All that they saw was that a blurry figure had rushed towards them. Then, before they could even do anything, they were sent flying one after the other. Each and every one of them passed out from the impact, though none of them died. They were not able to withstand the abilities of a stage 5 superhuman. So, with just a few attacks, Jack was able to take them out of the picture. But still, he retrained Holmes from killing them, considering that they were not the masterminds. It was enough punishment to them to face some little pain. And, although Jack had tried to control his strength well, he was able to do that so precisely. In the end, a few people that had been taken down ended up with some broken bones. Nevertheless, Jack did not care. After all, that could be a punishment for them for trying to kill him. After he was done, Jack turned around only to see that Celine and the rest of the group were staring in awe. To say the truth, they had never expected that he was this strong, although they had witnessed as he easily beat down Smith with just a single attack. Strength was completely different from speed. And what was needed here was speed, to deal with the over 10 people that had been attacking them. Let's get going. There are others that we need to take care of, Jack stated before he turned around and began walking away. He was not having the intention of taking anything from the guys on the ground, as he doubted that the system was going to multiply the gains. Celine followed Jack together with Samantha and Denali. They had already realized that this was not the elevator that could take them to the top floor where there was the leader of the organization. As they moved, they encountered even more people, but all of them were easily taken care of by Celine using the telekinesis ability. Currently, the commotion that they had created by entering this place using force had already alarmed Matthias and the other two that were in the top of the organization in this stronghold. They themselves were wondering on what they were supposed to do in this situation where the two people from the headquarters had been killed. They were not sure how they were supposed to explain to their superiors about how the two superhumans had died. But at this moment, the alarm system of the entire building went off. This alarm indicated that there was a strong force that was invading them, something that they had never expected was going to happen. All of them moved, setting the matter of the two dead bodies aside for the moment. They looked at the surveillance systems that were present in the next room. What they saw completely stunned them. What the FCK? One of them could not help but curse when he saw the ones that were on the screen. After all, they knew these people. They were the same people that they had been having trouble finding. In the end, the two superhumans followed Samantha, but they ended up dead in a car that was left in the streets. Could they be the ones that killed the two that were sent from the headquarters? Matthias could not help but ask. He felt his heart throbbing from fear as he looked at the domineering way that Jack and his group were making an entrance. Do you think that a stage 2 superhuman can kill one that is at the third stage? That is impossible to happen, another man, who possessed a slim stature, retorted. Can the two of you stop bantering on something so useless? We have to know on how we are going to deal with this matter right now. The man with a head full of gray hair said with a gloomy expression on his face. He was the one that had cursed. Bang! Bang! At this moment, they were suddenly shocked to hear the sound of the door into the room that they were currently in being banged. The group could not help but shift their attention back to the screens that were showing the scenes of Jack and his group. It was only now that they finally understood something. The performance of Jack and his group was way out of their expectations, and this being the first time that they were seeing a person with a special ability in action, they did not even try to think about where Jack and his group were currently at. For that reason, they did not even realize that Jack and his group had already arrived outside of the room that they were currently in. So, while they were discussing, Jack had gone ahead and knocked onto the door heavily. The eyes of the people inside the room immediately widened. They knew that from the force that was used to hit that door, had it not been for the fact that the door was made out of special materials that could not be easily taken down, then, it will have already been destroyed by now. Through the surveillance screens, they could see that Jack was actually looking at the camera, and he was speaking to them. It was just that, they could not hear what he was saying. Matthias did not hesitate to activate the sound system so that they could hear what Jack was saying. To say the truth, they were not willing to face Jack and his group. It was not as if Jack and his group had come over to discuss something, and, even if it was true that they had come over to discuss something, that something was definitely not peaceful. That implied that, whoever it was that wanted to face off against Jack and his group, they would be having a difficult time. And his group, considering that there were two superhumans, amongst which one of them was at the second stage of the superhuman level, and the other one possessed a, and currently, they were having suspicions that Jack and his group were the ones that were responsible with the death of the two superhumans that had been sent over from the headquarters. Not to mention that none of them present inside the room was actually a superhuman. But, even those strong people that had been sent from the stronghold had been taken care of. Although it was not yet proved, but it was still a fact that they were no match for Jack and his group, considering that there were two superhumans, amongst which one of them was at the second stage of the superhuman level, and the other one possessed a special ability. Are you guys going to come out or not? I still have something to discuss with you. Jack's voice reached them through the speaker that was inside the room. The group took a deep breath. It was clear that Jack had come over with a target in mind, and it just turned out that they themselves were actually the targets that Jack was after. What should we do? Should we go out and meet him? Matthias could not help but ask. It was not as if he was the leader of the organization, but he was just the second in command. What choice do we have? If we continue staying inside here, there's no guarantee that he is going to be capable of destroying this door. Moreover, who said that he would not come over another time? I think it is better if we deal with this problem now, the guy with a slim stature stated. Although he was not holding a high position as compared to Matthias within the organization, still, due to the fact that he was actually a 10-star ordinary human, his words carried a lot of weight. Immediately after saying that, both Matthias and the guy with the slim stature looked at the man with gray hair on his head. He was actually the leader of the entire force organization within Stronghold number 17. No, let us continue staying inside here. We do not have any guarantee that he is not going to kill us, just like how he has killed the 2 superhumans that were sent from the headquarters. Let me try to contact the headquarters and see if there is something that they can do. At this moment, as long as they are not capable of breaking this door, then we can stay here for 2 or 3 days, waiting for backup. The man said after he thought about it for a while. Other than that, there is also a fact that we do not even know if it is actually true that Jack and his group are the ones that had killed the 2, Matthias said. But it is going to take a very long time for the headquarters to send people over. Additionally, there's no guarantee that this door can actually continue holding Jack and his group out of here. Other than that, there is also a fact that we do not even know if it is actually true that Jack and his group are the ones that had killed the 2, Matthias said. What then? Do you want to go out and prove it? If you want to prove that they are the ones that have killed them or not, you can as well go out, but try to look for a method that you are going to go out using, making sure that they don't enter inside here. The man with the gray hair on his head stated as he stared sternly at Matthias. Although the both of them were actually 10-star superhumans, but Matthias was definitely not capable of defeating this man. So, he could only swallow back whatever he was intending to say. Jack and his group waited for a moment at the entrance of the room. Using the surveillance screen that they had found in a room along the way, they had realized where the leaders were staying. Additionally, they saw the 2 bodies belonging to Smith and Watson. And after they came over, they realized that there was nobody inside here. But that was when they saw that there was actually a room whose door was currently shut. After Jack asked the person or people inside to open the door so that he could enter, and there was no response, he decided to break it to make sure that there was actually nobody inside here. Anyway, whatever he had previously said, he was just to test if there was actually anybody inside there. Since there was no response, there might actually be a probability that there was nobody inside. Clenching his fist, Jack took a deep breath before aiming at the door. He was trying to make sure that he controlled his strength well enough, just enough to ensure that although he was going to break the door, he was not going to harm the people inside, though it was not as if he cared. Bang! The moment that his fist collided with the door, a loud collision sound could be heard. As for the metallic door, it suddenly bent inwards. Oops, it seems that I have not used enough strength, Jack stated nonchalantly before he attacked once again. The strength of a stage 5 superhuman could not be underestimated. After breaking the genetic lock, it was not just the flesh that was going to undergo changes, but even the bones and other parts of the body were going to undergo several changes. And currently, Jack's body had undergone several changes after managing to break the 5th genetic lock, and with that, although he was hitting the metallic door with his bare fists, he did not feel any pain at all. Bang! Boom! This time, the door could not handle the pressure of the punch. So, just after the punch landed on it, the sliding door was actually destroyed together with the entire system security system. Instead of opening the door, the inside door was destroyed. And it flew inside at an incredible speed. It seemed that Jack had failed control his strength well enough again. The man with the gray hair on his head was about to contact the headquarters when suddenly, he heard the door being hit severely. His eyes nearly popped out of their sockets when he realized that there was a big dent that had appeared on the door. At that moment, he realized that he had actually made a big mistake by not opening the door. It seemed that the door was not capable of holding back Jack and his group at all. So, no matter what, they were going to meet Jack and his group, even if he called for backup. As for the backup, that was not something that was going to arrive instantly. At this moment, the man decided that he was going to open the door before it was broken down. This way, perhaps he might have a chance of negotiating with Jack. But he had just arrived in front of the door and suddenly, the entire door suddenly flew out. Since he was not expecting something like this to happen, he was knocked backwards by the door. Bang! The entire door together with the frame fell down. He was lucky that he had fallen just a few centimeters from where the end of the door landed. Otherwise, he would have definitely been crushed by the door. Completely horrified, the man with the gray hair together with Matthias and the guy with a slim stature looked towards the entrance of the door where Jack and his group calmly stepped into the room. When Jack and his group entered the room, he had not been expecting that much. After all, they were just guessing that there might be actually people inside this room. But when he entered, he was a little surprised after realizing that there were actually 3 people present inside the room. And he could immediately tell that they were not superhumans, considering that the system did not give him a prompt to inform him about their current levels. "Okay. Are you guys the leaders of this organization?" Jack asked, straight to the point. He had not come over to banter with this group, but instead, he wanted compensation from them. "Yes. This one here is the leader of this branch of the Force organization," Matthias responded as he pointed towards the guy with the gray hair. The moment that he did that, the guy with the gray hair was immediately dumbfounded. Then, in the next moment, he was infuriated by Matthias pointing towards him. That implied that he was trying to push all the problems that had come over to him. And it seemed that Jack and his group had only come over because they wanted to meet up with the leader of the organization. But still, it did not seem like they came over with good intentions, or otherwise, they will have definitely not used force to get in here. Jack looked at the man with the gray hair and said, "Today, there were 2 idiots that came over to my store to cause trouble. So far, I have already dealt with them, but still, I have not gotten compensation for the products that were destroyed within my store, and the customers that have been chased away due to the blood that stained the store." The moment that Jack uttered those words, the 3 people inside blood that stained the store. The moment that Jack uttered those words, the 3 people inside the room immediately understood something. It was Jack who had actually dealt with Smith and Watson. Although they were making speculations before, but still, they did not have that much of faith that Jack was actually the one that had dealt with them. But now, after Jack had said that he had dealt with 2 people, and considering that Watson and Smith were 2 people, and they were the ones that had gone after Samantha in order to gain information about where Jack was, it was clear that he was the one that was killed them. But then again, they were wondering about what kind of losses did Jack encounter. After all, for him to come over personally to ask for compensation from them, that implied that the losses were not that low. But considering the fact that there was actually a fight between superhumans, then, it was obvious that there were going to be several losses that were going to occur. Samantha, Denali, and Celine both looked at Jack incredulously. Inside their hearts, they could not help but wonder how shameless Jack could be. Wasn't the damage that the store suffered cost only about 10,000 star coins? Why is it that you are actually making a fuss about it? If it was normal, then, they believed that by just coming over and asking the members of the Force organization to hand over the compensation, these guys would not hesitate, considering that Jack had actually killed their superhumans. But not only did Jack come over and beat up almost everybody inside this building, who had actually tried to block his way, but he was even asking for compensation from them. Just the people that had been injured would require a lot of resources in order to heal. So, the organization was already suffering greater damages. "If I may ask, what should be the cost of the damage that was dealt to your store?" the gray-haired man questioned. Since he had already been pushed forward, he decided to take responsibility. Additionally, it was a good thing that Jack did not go straight to the point of beating them up. Currently, they themselves were not capable of dealing with a person like Jack who was already a superhuman, not to mention that Celine was also present. "It doesn't cost that much. The total cost should be about 3 to 5 million star coins." Jack responded as if whatever he was saying was nothing. And, the moment that he said that, everybody inside the room looked at him with disbelief. Celine, Denali, and Samantha both were astounded by Jack's words. After all, before they came over, they had already confirmed that the total cost that was required for the repair and purchasing of new items to replace those that had been destroyed. And, according to the rough calculation, at most, it was going to cost about 10,000 star coins. But, right now, Jack was immediately asking for 3 to 5 million star coins. Wasn't that too much? As for the 3 people who were facing Jack at the moment, they could not help but wonder what kind of damage had been caused during the fight. As long as they could see, Jack's clothes were just okay. Of course, they could not see the back. Not only that, but even Jack himself looked just fine. It did not seem like he was injured anywhere. That implied that, during that fight, he had not suffered that much. But still, how is it possible that there was a lot of damage, if Jack was able to dominate Smith and Watson? Can you please reduce the price? That is too expensive for us." The gray-haired man responded. It was true that 3 to 5 million star coins were not that much for the organizations like the Panthers organization, the Butterfly organization, and the others. That was mainly due to the fact that they were engaged in several businesses. But, for the Force organization, it was completely restricted. It was not allowed to have much of an influence within any territory that it appeared within. So, all those branches did not possess that much money. Additionally, whenever money came over, it was immediately spent to purchase resources that were going to be used to improve the members and other amenities of the organization. For that reason, currently, the amount of liquid currency that they possessed was not that high, and they could not just take out all the money that they possessed and give to Jack. If they did so, how were they going to operate? Oh, you are against it? If you think that this is too much, I don't really mind taking everything that is within this organization of yours. And, whatever I cannot take with me, I'll just destroy it, Jack responded. Whatever Jack had said immediately made the three people alarmed. If not only Jack took over everything that the organization possessed, then, destroyed even more, then, the losses that they were going to suffer were definitely going to be way above the 3 to 5 million star coins that Jack had asked for. So, after hesitating for a moment, the gray-haired man took a deep breath as he responded, "Okay then. We will be transferring to you the 5 million within the day. I don't really want the whatever day thing. The transfer should be done right now." Jack shook his head as he responded. He was not sure if those from the headquarters were going to send someone over, but still, he was not willing to take any chances that his plan was going to be interrupted. "Okay. I'll make sure that it happens today," the gray-haired man responded. At this point, he felt a little pressured, but at the same time, relieved. It did not seem that Jack was that much of a bad person. Had it not been for the fact that they were the ones that went after him, then, he might have actually not even paid attention to them. So, currently, he was wishing that Jack would get out of here as soon as possible. Jack nodded. He was just about to turn around and leave, considering that these people possessed his user ID, the one that they used to contact him, so they could easily transfer the money into his account, when he suddenly thought of something. He looked at the three people with squinted eyes and asked, "Who is it that reported the matter about me and the rest of my group?" It might be true that Jack was no longer planning to stay low-key, but that did not imply that he was going to leave behind those people that had caused him trouble. He is the one. He is the one that gave the information about the results of the test to the members of the headquarters of our organization. The gray-haired man immediately responded without hesitation. At this point, he had already realized that this was a chance for him to take revenge. Although he was not capable of just attacking Matthias, but, now, this was a chance for him to take the revenge. Matthias was the one that pushed him forward to deal with Jack, something that ended quite well, but now, it was time for Matthias to deal with the problem as well. When Matthias heard that, he could not help but glare at the gray-haired man. But, the gray-haired man just threw him a gloating glance, before he completely ignored him. Matthias' bald head was already sweating, making it shine under the lighting in the room. He could not help but have his body tremble a little as he felt Jack's gaze landing on him. "You are the one that disrupted the peace that I was enjoying all this time. So, what are you going to use to compensate me?" Jack questioned sternly. Matthias had never expected that by reporting about the test results about Jack and his group, it was going to cause this kind of problems. Initially, he had believed that he was going to be promoted, and he might even be given resources that would enable him to reach the superhuman level. It was true that he had actually been promised a lot, but, until now, they had not been delivered. Instead, what had been delivered was actually the consequences of reporting about the results. And, these consequences were definitely not positive at all. And, currently, looking at Jack's expression as he looked at him, he could not help but continuously tremble. He was afraid that Jack was going to make a move on him. After all, Jack had already killed 2 superhumans, and those were the ones that had gone over to look for trouble with him. Then, what was he going to do to the one that had actually been the cause of it? "I'll give you everything that I own, but, please, you will have to spare my life," Matthias responded. And, the tone and attitude that he possessed was definitely contrasting, something that would make people question if he was actually facing a young man, while he himself was almost at the same age as Jack's father. "Does whatever everything you have possess much information? Perhaps about a certain skill or so on?" Jack questioned. He really wasn't that much interested in the wealth that this guy possessed. To him, that was something that could be gotten as long as he continued to run the store. But of course, he would not refuse getting free money as well. Though, what he really cared about the most at this moment was information. He wanted to make sure that he utilized the ability of the system to the maximum level, by trying to make sure that he gained more skills during the time that he was staying here. When he was supposed to be moving to the big strongholds, he wanted to be having a few more cards that he was going to depend on. And, He was not just intending to depend on his own strength, rather, he wanted to make sure that he was doing something that was going to help the entire of his team. I have a few of them that possess information about cars. But that is actually just the basics, and it does not possess any deep information about it. Matthias responded honestly. This was the information that he had received as a merit for his hard work for the organization. But, currently, he had no choice but to hand over something like this to Jack. Jack thought about it before he suddenly decided. Whatever. As long as it is something that you possess, that is something that you have already promised to give me in order to spare your life. But still, that is not enough for the problem that you have caused me. So, I want all the information that the entire organization possesses. Impossible. That is absolutely impossible. The man with the slim stature finally spoke for the first time ever since Jack and his group came over. But, he had just spoken, and was just about to continue saying that it was impossible when suddenly, his body was launched backwards by an invisible force. Bang! He landed heavily on the wall behind him, before collapsing to the ground while his body was squirming. He was in pain as several of his bones had been fractured, and he felt dizzy. Matthias and the gray-haired man did not say anything, but still, the both of them looked at Celine. They already knew about the fact that Celine possessed a special ability, and the golden light on the genetic structure that she possessed represented the telekinesis ability, basically anything that was related to the mind. So, they knew that it was Celine that had attacked this time, but, although they were afraid, they could not fulfill whatever it was that Jack was asking for. What is it? Are you unwilling? Jack asked as he cocked his brows. At the same time as he spoke, he subconsciously released some of the superhuman pressure. Currently, Jack had already reached the 5th stage of the superhuman level. So, his level of pressure had already increased. And so, the moment that the pressure landed on the two people in front of him, their bodies began getting soaked in sweat. Just after a few seconds, Jack retrieved the pressure. But still, he looked at the two people in front of him with an expression that stated that, if they did not do as he said, then, he was going to destroy them. But both Matthias and the gray-haired man were unwilling to reveal the information. After all, by doing that, it will be no different from completely betraying the organization. What? You think that it is impossible for me to get it by myself? Jack questioned. His patience was already waning off. When the two of them heard what Jack said, they immediately came back to their senses. It was true that Jack was capable of getting the information, because all that was required was actually their fingerprint and user IDs. That was something that Jack was capable of getting from them, by using force. Additionally, although it was true that revealing the information about the organization was not that much different from betraying the organization, but, what was the need for them to be loyal if they were dead? Additionally, only they were here. That implied that, even if they decided to reveal the information to Jack, then, as long as Jack and his group did not inform others that they had received information from this organization, then, nobody was going to know about it. Wasn't it just a matter of copying the information? Okay. We are going to do that as well. Should we send it to your store? The gray-head man immediately made a decision as he responded hurriedly. Jack thought about it for a moment, before he agreed. Anyway, to transfer a large amount of information, it was definitely going to take some time, which he was not willing to continue to spend here. Make sure that you do that. Because if you don't come, I don't really mind coming over again. But, the next time that I come over, I will not be lenient. Jack stated. Immediately after saying that, he turned around and left together with Celine and the rest. As for Matthias, Jack was not planning to kill him. Anyway, it was not as if he was going to cause Jack any problems considering that he was not even a superhuman. Additionally, it was not as if the two of them were enemies, ones that were going to make Matthias to cause Jack problems intentionally. But of course, Jack would not mind eliminating Matthias if he was capable of causing him trouble, but, that was something that was not going to happen anytime soon considering that, Jack was already planning on improving his strength. It was only after Jack and his group had left that Matthias and the gray-haired man felt relieved. Then, they turned around and looked at each other, glaring angrily into the other party's eyes. Humph. After a moment of staring contest, the two of them snorted, before they turned around, deciding to deal with their own matters. Anyway, it was not as if dealing with the other party was that important right now. Now, they had to ensure that they had transferred both the information and the money to Jack. The two of them completely ignored the man with the slim stature, who was still lying on the ground helplessly. Celine had not been that much lenient on this guy, so, he was going to take a few days and some good resources in order to be able to recover back to his peak condition. Just after they had left the building of the Force organization, Jack was a little surprised when he saw that there was someone that was waiting for them, and he was wondering what this person wanted. Or could it be perhaps that she had come over because she wanted to do something in the organization? Anyway, it was not as if there was any business between him and her. So, he prepared to leave together with Celine and the other two. But he had just begun leaving when suddenly, Sylvia, who was just arriving, rushed and blocked his path. Frowning, Jack looked at Sylvia and asked, "What do you want?" The involvement of Sylvia was something that was between her and his mother. But it was not as if Jack was having any plan of fulfilling whatever promise it was that his mother had made. After all, even Sylvia herself was not revealing everything to him. So, even if he wanted to do something to help his mother and fulfilling her end of the deal, there was nothing that he could do about it. "What do I want? You are asking such a question when you actually know about what you have done," Sylvia asked irritatedly. Just standing in front of Jack, she felt like strangling him. After all, he was the reason why she had lost a lot of face inside her organization. "Whatever it is that I have done, I don't think that it is anyhowly related to you," Jack responded nonchalantly, before he prepared himself to leave. He was not ready to bicker with Sylvia. "Do you know that you have killed someone from a big organization? Additionally, they are not just from any organization, but instead, an organization that possesses great strength. This is definitely trouble," Sylvia stated hurriedly after realizing that Jack was about to leave. "If that is all, then I'm going," Jack responded as if he did not even care about what Sylvia had said. Anyway, it was not as if he was doing something that he did not know the consequences of. Instead, he knew them all too well, but he was not that much bothered. As for those that he had killed, they were the ones that had come over to look for trouble. He had already said that he was not interested in joining the whatever organization that they were mentioning, but they just had to resort to using force, something that they were not capable of doing at all. When Sylvia heard what Jack had said, she could not help but get stunned for a moment. Then she looked at Jack, who had already began walking away, as she asked, "Do you know the strength that those big strongholds possess? A superhuman is nothing that big in the big strongholds, as the number of the superhumans there is so high, just like ordinary humans here." "I guessed that already, but it doesn't matter really. If they keep on sending people to come after me, then I'll just kill them as well," Jack responded as he proceeded to enter his car. Sylvia was getting pissed off by the way that Jack was acting. Had it not been for the fact that he was the only one that was related to Anne, then she really would have never cared about whether he died or not. But now, not until she found where Anne was, there was no way that she was going to allow him to die a stupid death. She moved forward and looked at Jack through the car window before she said in a low voice, "I don't really know the reason why you killed that old man, but you won't tell me even if I ask, I guess. Nevertheless, I can inform you that there is a young man that is in my organization that was being protected by the old man." Sylvia had not even completed what she was saying when she saw that Jack was staring at her. "You sure about that?" Jack asked as he looked at Sylvia. Although Derek was not that important, but still, that guy had already gotten to Jack's nerves. So, Jack didn't mind doing away with him as well. "What? You think that I'm going to lie to you? What benefit do I get from that?" Sylvia asked, displeased by the attitude that Jack was showing. "And what are you going to get when you inform us about that information? I don't want to believe that you cannot take care of a person like that on your own, right?" Celine, who had been silent the entire time, finally spoke up. She was not in much good terms with Sylvia, and, although she had been ignoring her presence, this woman was just getting much more irritating. "Me. I myself know about the benefits that I'm going to get. Do I have to tell you that as well?" Sylvia asked. Why was this entire group getting on her nerves this way? She was getting impatient when it came to dealing with them, that especially being for Jack and Celine. "Whatever. Let's get going then. I need to deal with that idiot right now," Jack stated, preventing the two ladies from engaging in a fight of words that might as well escalate to a brawl. Sylvia did not say anything and went back to her car, driving ahead of Jack and his group. Inside Panther's organization, a few hours had already gone by ever since Derek was brought over. Since he was from a big territory, the Panther's organization had no choice but to mobilize the limited resources to heal him. Still, due to the fact that the resources here were limited, the injuries that Derek had suffered could not be healed fully. But still, after the past few hours, the injuries had already healed, to the extent that they allowed him to be able to move around like a normal human. It was just that he had not recovered his combat strength yet. He would need more than this to be healed. Derek was currently inside the room that he was resting after coming out of the healing pod. He was getting frustrated just thinking about the fact that he had actually failed to kill Jack. Initially, he had thought that Jack was an easy target. He was simply depending on Celine for protection, and, if he gave the information to his father, then, his father was going to make the two of them to be separated. All of this came crushing down after he was beaten up by Jack this morning. And, he was completely beaten up by a single attack from Jack. It turned out that Jack was also a superhuman, something that was completely illogical to him. How was it possible that there were actually two superhumans, and each of them had not yet reached the age of 25? Could there be a secret behind this? But, as frustrated as Derek was, there was nothing that he could do in this situation. He was at a disadvantage, and, for some reason, that old man was not acting at all. The frustration in his heart needed somewhere to be vented, and, after looking around for a while, he decided to go out and look for something that he was going to use to vent out the anger and frustration. He could not just calm down after getting beaten up. Currently, he was not in his top shape, something that had not happened in a very long while. Just after he stepped out of the room, he managed to see someone that made him feel a little excited. It was none other than Patricia. He had actually forgotten about this girl not long after he had been given the mission by his father. At that time, he was simply thinking about his father planning to make Celine his wife. If that was going to happen, then, he was going to be happy. Additionally, he was going to try and make sure that Alicia accepted the marriage between the two of them. If he managed to get those two ladies as his wife, then, the influence of his family was going to be expanded. And at that time, perhaps they would be capable of taking over the entire territory where his family was located. Hey, I told you that I will be coming back. It seems that you have already forgotten about me. Have you? Derek shouted towards Patricia, who was walking away. Patricia was slightly relieved in the past few days after realizing that Derek was not coming back. But, all of that changed today. Derek had come in, and he was injured. As for who had injured him, she did not know. But still, she was happy about it. But, she had not expected that this guy was going to wake up and call for her. How unlucky was she that she had to pass by this area when this idiot was waking up. She felt her body trembling a little. But still, she decided to pretend that she did not hear Derek calling to her. Perhaps he was going to ignore her, she did not know. Currently, inside the entire organization, there was nobody that she could depend on entirely. The one that she really depended on previously was Antonio Phillips, someone who had already been locked away by Sylvia in the dungeon. So, what she was planning currently was to make sure that she got a higher position, and maybe in the future, she would be able to get Antonio out of the prison that he was locked in. Hey, I'm calling you and you're trying to ignore me? Do you think something like that is going to work on me? Derek questioned furiously. Initially, he really wanted to play a game with Patricia considering that she was resisting him. But right now, he really didn't care if she resisted him or not. He was already frustrated that all the girls that he was targeting had a person in their mind. And, it just had to turn out that all the two girls were thinking about the same person. As for that person, he was way stronger than he himself was. That was the part that he was so angry about. Now, he did not care about whatever Patricia thought about. Additionally, the game that he was initially planning to play with her had already been thrown out of the window. Patricia really wanted to get out of here, but she did not have a choice but to stop. It was true that she could run away right now, but still, could she really run away from this stronghold? That was impossible. Additionally, she was not planning to go away, considering that Antonio was still within the organization. Unless she left together with Antonio, there was nowhere that she was going to. After Derek realized that Patricia had stopped, he immediately began walking towards her. After he arrived behind her, he asked in a domineering tone, "Turn around right now. Do you want to talk to me while giving me your back?" Patricia did not turn around. She was not willing to look at that disgusting face that was always looking at her with lustful eyes. Derek on the other hand was getting even more irritated after realizing that Patricia was not obeying what he was saying. Normally, he would have really appreciated something like this. But, it was completely different now. Humph! Derek snorted. Then, he extended his hand to grab Patricia's, but, before he could even feel Patricia's skin on his palm, he felt that there was an invisible force that was suddenly holding him in place. Then before he could even realize what was going on, he was suddenly blasted backwards. The force that was pushing him backwards was completely irresistible, not giving him a chance of doing anything. Bang! He landed heavily onto the ground of the hallway that they were currently in. Since his body had not yet recovered well, he immediately passed out after landing onto the ground. He was not capable of handling the pain that his body was undergoing at that time. Patricia was also suddenly dumbfounded after hearing the sound of something dropping onto the ground. She turned around, only to realize that instead of an item dropping onto the ground, it was actually Derek. As for how he had reached there, she did not know. Just as she was wondering what had happened, she suddenly heard the footsteps approaching. When she looked over, her eyes suddenly squinted. That was because she had noticed that Sylvia was coming over. But she was a little surprised after realizing that Sylvia was not alone. Instead, he had come over together with the group of people that had come over to the organization a few days ago. It was just that, Sylvia was not walking in front, instead, she was walking beside a young man and a lady. Of course, she could recognize Jack considering that she was amongst those people that had been possessing information about Jack. I see. You have improved a little. This kind of improvement is not that bad. I'm pretty sure that by the time that 1 month goes by, you should be able to fully control your ability, Jack stated as he looked at Derek, whose body had already collapsed onto the ground. Me Celine had decided to try to use the special ability that she possessed from a long distance. But due to the distance, the power of the ability had been reduced. For that reason, Derek was not that much injured, but still, he was blasted backwards. That guy is so lucky. Had it been possible, I really wanted to make sure that his head makes a hole in the ceiling. Celine responded, a little dissatisfied by the results. The group had not been hearing any conversation between Patricia and Derek. But still, the moment that Celine saw Derek, she could not help but want to beat him up. So, she decided to use him as a guinea pig for experimenting her ability. What is it? Is he causing you trouble? Sylvia asked the stunned Patricia. It was not as if she herself had not received information about Derek's acts. It was just that, there was nothing that she could do. Not to mention the fact that Derek was from a big stronghold, but there was also that old man who was protecting him. That old man was way stronger than she was, so there was nothing that she could do against Derek. But now, everything was completely different. Currently, that old man was already dead. As for this Derek, he was going to be dealt with by Jack and his group. And to say the truth, she really hated a young master like Derek. That was the exact reason why she had not come out to meet up with him personally. And she was sure that, had it not been for the fact that she was a superhuman, then Derek would not have hesitated to make a move on her. Yeah, he was here because of what he had stated last week. Patricia responded absent-mindedly. She really did not know how to treat Sylvia right now. After all, Sylvia was here asking about her well-being, but she on the other hand was just thinking about how she was going to make sure that Sylvia suffered. There's no need for you to worry again, Sylvia stated. But she did not go ahead to explain the reason why Patricia was not supposed to be worried. But Patricia was no idiot. She had already noticed that the old man that was brought over was dead, and, from the way that he was being treated, it seemed that he was holding a high position. And it was this very old man that had brought over Derek for treatment. As for how or why he was dead, that was not something that concerned her. But right now, she understood that, perhaps there was a relationship between the death of that old man, with this group that had come over. Jack did not pay much attention to Patricia. Instead, he went ahead and looked at Derek, who had already passed out. He was already bleeding from his nose and mouth. Without any pity, he kicked Derek on his right ribs, and the intense pain that came over immediately jolted Derek out of his unconscious state. Triple A gaw! Derek nearly screamed, had it not been that his scream was interrupted midway by another kick from Jack. It was also during this moment that Derek finally paid attention to his surroundings, and realized that Jack was actually here. But there was one thing that Derek could not understand. He himself was currently on the ground, undergoing a lot of pain. But surprisingly, Vincent was not showing up. Additionally, it was actually Jack and his group who had come over. How dare you? Hi! Derek was just about to throw out a threat when he was interrupted by yet another kick. It was just that. Jack was controlling his strength to make sure that Derek did not pass out. He wanted this guy to experience some pain, so that he could understand the mistake that he had done. Every moment that Derek tried to say something, Jack would kick him. And, from this, Derek was able to learn a lesson, and immediately kept his mouth shut. Can you tell me the reason why you are targeting my fiancé? Jack asked. To him, it was not a surprise that the people from the Force organization would come over to look for him. But he was wondering why it was that Derek had come over. Initially, he really would have thought that Derek was only coming after Celine because he was lusting after her. But it was completely different after he realized that when the people from the Force organization came over, they only had a single target, and that was him. As for Derek, his target was Celine. That implied that there had to be a relationship between Derek and the Force organization. That relationship was something that Jack wanted to know about. "I want to marry her," Derek immediately responded with whatever was in his mind. But he was not allowed to finish whatever he was saying before he was kicked once again. "You better not start telling me that bullshit, or I will not mind making you a eunuch," Jack stated bluntly. And when Derek heard that, he subconsciously closed his legs together. If there was something that he really did not want to do, that was to become a eunuch. Although he was not sure if the level of technology that was in the stronghold where his family was located was capable of making him recover that part of his body, but he was not willing to try. "It is a mission that I was given by my father. I am supposed to complete it by bringing her back to the family," Derek responded honestly. It was just that he was having a little trouble when it came to speaking fluently. Jack frowned after hearing that. He was wondering if the information had already been passed to Derek's family from the Force organization. But after thinking about it, it was definitely no surprise that there might be a relationship between the people of the Force organization and Derek's family. "When did you receive the mission? Was it during the time that you were out of the stronghold domain, or inside?" Jack questioned once again. "It was during the Tim," Derek was once again responding when suddenly, he felt that something had entered his mouth at an incredible speed. Before he could even speed it out, it had already slid down his throat. Left with no choice, he could only swallow it, and, just as he was wondering what it was that had entered his mouth, he felt that the injuries that he had suffered were no longer worsening. Instead, they had stabilized a little. Jack had retrieved one of the Stage 2 low-level recovery pill from the system, before he flicked it into Derek's mouth. It was not that he pitied Derek, but he was just getting impatient with how slow Derek was responding to his questions. "Continue answering the questions," Jack stated as he looked at Derek. Derek immediately understood what was going on. So, just in case, to make sure that he was not beaten up again, he immediately responded. "I was given the mission during the time that I was inside the stronghold domain. That was after we came back from the normal world." Although he was undergoing pain even after taking the pill, he still tried to make sure that he said complete sentences. Jack thought about it, and it seemed that there was actually a relationship between the Force organization and Derek's family. He and Celine had both never been within the stronghold domain, and this was the first time that they were here. That implied that the information about them was only revealed to the people of the big strongholds after they had taken the test. So, it seemed that he was having two enemies from the beginning. Yes, it was true that they came over with the intention of recruiting him. But still, after he refused, they had actually resorted to using force. That was something that Jack was against. He was not willing to join any organization that was going to control him, when even the system mission stated that he had to create an organization of his own that was going to be well known within the entire stronghold domain. "For what reason were you asked to bring my fiancée back to your family?" Jack asked with a moment of thought. Derek almost replied that it was obvious that his father was planning to have Celine getting married to him. But, he still managed to prevent himself considering that Jack was in front of him, and Jack was Celine's fiancé. If he dared to say something like that, then, he was definitely going to suffer more than what he had suffered now. But still, that did not imply that he was going to change his mindset. He believed that as long as Vincent came over, then, everything was going to be solved. At that time, after he got a chance, he was definitely going to make sure that Jack paid for whatever humiliation that he had made him suffer today. As for Celine, he was going to take her in front of Jack. As long as his father agreed to get the two of them married, then, no matter who Jack was, then, there was no way that he was going to be capable of resisting this, and could only watch helplessly from the side. Just thinking about the future, he decided to make sure that he got out of this situation first. He was not sure about where Vincent had gone to, so, he had to ensure that he survived until Vincent came over. "I don't really know about the reason why I was asked to bring her back. Initially, I came to look for her simply because I was given information about her. But, I never thought that she was engaged to someone. Me after coming to this realization, I decided to quit, but I had not even reached home when I was informed by my father that I was supposed to bring her back to the family." Derek responded honestly, with several lies inside his words. At this moment, he had already decided that he was going to make sure that he dealt with Jack. Again, he had revealed a hint that he had not actually come to the normal world to play, but instead, he had come over after receiving information from someone. And, just like he had expected, Jack caught to what he had said. Jack had not expected that there was actually someone that was giving information to the people of the stronghold domain to come out to the normal world, just to look for his fiancée. Who was it that gave you the information? Jack questioned. Since this guy had already revealed that he was given information, that implied that he was not unwilling to reveal the information. I'm sorry, but I cannot reveal the information about who really, Derek responded. He was intending to make sure that Jack thought that it was difficult for him to reveal that information. But he had not finished speaking when Jack snorted. You better tell me the information. If you don't, then you better be ready for another round of beating, Jack stated coldly. Derek felt his body trembling a little when he looked at Jack's cold gaze. He swallowed hard, before deciding to respond. It seemed that Jack was not a person that was going to tolerate any nonsense. So as to spare himself from getting beaten up, he decided to reveal everything. I was just at home when I received a call. I don't care about the stories. Go straight to the point. Who was it that gave you that information? Jack asked with a frown. It was Alicia from Devon's stronghold. She was the one that told me that there was a beautiful girl that I could make my wife. So, I came out, not knowing that she was actually engaged to someone. She was trying to use me, Derek responded. At this moment, he was trying to take himself out of the trouble, while bringing yet another person inside, to him. He wanted to blame everything that happened to Alicia. After all, part of what he had said was actually the truth. Alicia had informed him that there was actually a good girl that he could get, and make her his wife. But, she did not inform him that she was actually engaged, and, the person that she was engaged to was not just any normal human. At this point, Derek had already realized that there had to be something wrong between Jack and Alicia. And, even if there was none, he was trying to create a gap between them. If Jack knew that Alicia was the one that had actually sent him to cause trouble for his fiancée, he was definitely going to be angry at her. And, there was definitely going to exist some hatred between the two of them. If that happened, then, things were going to be advantageous for him, considering that there would be no chance for Alicia to get together with Jack, even after he had taken away Celine from him. Just thinking of this strategy of his, Derek complimented himself for being so smart. He was so excited about what was going to happen next, that he nearly smiled. But, he was capable of preventing himself from doing so, by focusing on the pain that his body was currently undergoing. Jack frowned. After thinking about the information that he was given by Derek for a moment, he realized that whatever Derek had said was actually along the lines. Alicia was the only person from the stronghold domain that he had interacted with, other than Derek and that old man. Additionally, the two sides had actually parted on bad terms. And, it seemed that Alicia had not yet given up on the matter. Previously, she had tried controlling Celine, making her to break up with him. But, it was good that he had realized that there was something wrong, and even Alicia appeared soon enough. But now, it seemed that she was still trying to make sure that the two of them got separated. And, looking at Derek, and knowing that he came from a big stronghold, it was obvious that whatever he did was supported by his big background. That implied that, if he targeted Celine, then, Jack was going to have a difficult time preventing him from taking Celine away. If he was not able to snatch away Celine's heart, then he could still take her away from him using force. But, Alicia would have never expected that Jack would actually be capable of getting stronger than he was. Additionally, he really did not care about the background that Derek possessed. So, this time, Jack had already decided that he had to deal with Alicia as soon as possible. But, it was good enough that currently, it did not seem that Alicia was intending to make any drastic move. And for that reason, Jack decided that he was not going to make a move on Alicia this soon. He had to make sure that he solved the other two first. After coming to a conclusion, Jack kicked at Derek. Derek, who had been feeling excited in his heart, did not expect that he was going to be beaten up even after giving the information. Bang! His body was shot backwards, and collided with the hallway walls. The force that Jack had used in kicking him was not low at all, and, it would have seriously injured a stage 1 superhuman. As for Derek, he was just a 10-star ordinary human. And other than that, currently, he was not even completely healed from the injuries that he had suffered previously, when he was suddenly kicked so harshly. Derek's body could not hold on anymore. The internal injuries that he had suffered due to that kick, added together with the collision against the wall, Derek collapsed onto the ground, unconscious. It was definitely going to be difficult for him to be able to survive after this. That was unless several resources were used in order to heal him, but there was no way that was going to happen considering that, inside Stronghold number 17, there was definitely no kind of resource that was capable of saving a person in the current state that Derek was in. Alright. I'm done here. I think I'll be on my way then. Jack stated as he looked at Sylvia. He completely ignored Derek, who had collapsed onto the ground. Sylvia felt her lips twitching when she heard what Jack had said. This guy had actually beaten up a young master from a big stronghold, but he was still acting so nonchalantly.